folks online. We have a lot of people in the room. If you're online, go ahead and put a thumbs up or type something in that chat so we know that you can hear us. We have a lot of our global partners online. For those of you that are new here, welcome to Development Workshops. We've been doing this for quite some time. My name is Jules Janesco, and I am part of the Learning and Development team here in North America. And we have a very special guest today. Wesley is with us. And just for those of you who maybe haven't been here yet for Development Workshops, Wesley cares a lot about this topic. He's put a lot of effort into those 360 development comments, and we run those through an AI tool. A sense of urgency, what Wesley will be talking about today, was one of the top 3 comments for that 360 opportunity comment box. And that's really important. That means that's something we need to work on. So without further ado, please make sure you scan that attendance. Otherwise, please help me welcome Wesley.
Thank you. So, yeah, very good to talk about this subject. This is a subject that I think it's very important. I did something interesting here. I actually looked up on ChatGPT because we don't use dictionaries in Google anymore. So I did a ChatGPT. The definition of sense of urgency. So I found it pretty interesting. I'll just start off with that, and I'll make a few comments here. So, psychological state in which a person feels the immediate action is necessary because delay could lead to loss, harm, missed opportunity, or worsening consequences. I found it was an interesting one. It defines a little bit here. So, when we talk about sense of urgency, obviously we're going to be talking about why it's important and what we can do about, what it looks like when it's good, what it looks like when it's bad, and why it's so important for our company. And the usual thing that anybody would first think about when we're talking about sense of urgency is, it's speed. Time really is money. Time certainly is money. Having money, capturing an opportunity or dealing with a problem early does actually end up meaning most of the times actual money in the bank account. A lot of times it does happen, and most times it does happen. But I'm not actually going to spend too much time talking about this because that's something we kind of all know, and we don't need to talk too much about it because it's kind of self-evident. But what I do want to talk about is another aspect of why I think it's really important, and I think it's, if we're going to do an analogy of health, it's a symptom that when we lack sense of urgency is the symptom of a cultural disease. And when we have a lot of it, it's a symptom of great cultural health across the board, across multiple values, because if you think about it, sense of urgency is not one of our beliefs. It's not one of our values. I think it's mentioned in the definition of ownership, but it's not one of them. So why are we talking about it like this? Are we going to add sense of urgency as a value? No, we're not. Are we going to? That's not what it is. So if we do a little bit of an analogy with health, it's one of those. It's a baseline. It's a proxy for most of that really indicate the health of all of our other values and our culture in general. So, few things about it that I think is pretty good. So I think sense of ownership is sense of urgency. Is a key characteristic of what ownership looks like. When you imagine somebody with ownership, that's a great way of defining it, right? It's somebody that sees an opportunity, sees a problem, sees a mistake, sees an opportunity to actually get something done better and acts on it immediately with passion, goes for it. I think it really defines ownership. And, we don't rank our values from most important to least important, but I would say that ownership is probably one of the main values that we have and one of the main differentiators that we have from other companies. So again, I think it's very important to keep that in mind, because again, if we have a low sense of urgency across the business, it means we have low ownership. It's a clear connection. I also think that there is something very important with sense of urgency that a lot of times is that, again, sense of urgency is not about getting something done or not get something done. It's about when you get something done and how intensive you go about getting something done, right? So you're never talking about doing something or not doing something, because it's just about when and how. I think that, when a company or a department or a person doesn't have a good sense of urgency, a lot of times what ends up happening is the big conflict between, it's what's good enough and what's excellent, right? And our mission is to be the best. And a lot of times, for you to, if we don't have really a lot of sense of urgency of getting things done with energy, with immediately, and getting in front of it right away with passion, we're basically just doing something that's good enough. It's okay, I'm getting it done. It's just 3 weeks from now instead of tomorrow. Yeah, it's delayed, it's not done with a lot of passion, but I'm getting it done. So it's good, but it's not good enough. And if our mission is not to be good, our mission is not to be good enough, but by far it's not to be good enough, because any one of our competitors are good enough, otherwise they would already not exist. So everybody's good enough, and if they're not, don't worry about them, because they're going to be irrelevant pretty soon. So it's all about being the best, and doing what's really doing what's possible immediately, fast, and maybe even what's impossible almost, like get it done. So it's a very good determination, a good good indicator if we're going to be the best or if we're just going to be good enough, because again, it's about when and how we get it done. Why sometimes it happens, and I will talk about how I think it usually looks like, but a lot of times sense of urgency is not because people don't think it's important. It's not because, a lot of times it's just fear of making a decision. It's an inconscious, like subconscious kind of fear. It's not something that people are like actually laying out, that I'm afraid of making this decision. It's, well, I'm insecure about making this decision, so I don't know, let's think about it. And then you don't think about it, and you just see if the problem solves itself. That's usually what it looks like. Or, yeah, you're showing me an opportunity. Again, going to the definition, right? A delay that causes missed opportunity. You're showing an opportunity, but it's kind of different than what we've done. Let's think about it. And then the opportunity misses. The opportunity disappears, and, well, it wasn't that I said no. It's just that, well, we were thinking about it, and now it's not an issue anymore. So we don't need to worry about it. It just passed away because I was insecure about making that decision, making that call. So let me think about it, and then don't think about it. Don't actually put the effort, and then it just dies away. Well, yeah, I would have done it, but now it doesn't matter anymore. It's irrelevant, so that's okay. So, and a lot of times is this fear of making the decision, taking the risk, and it's a very dangerous thing. I would also mention that, I think a key trait of a leader is somebody that for sure debates, listens, talks, but then decides. I think the main key, the main trait of a leader is somebody that's actually not only not afraid to make a decision, but actually enjoys making a decision. You actually have to be careful that sometimes leaders, people that have a leadership trait, sometimes they're too easy to go and make a decision. Sometimes they should. Usually, the good leader is the person that you have to say, "Hey, think a little bit more. Don't make that decision." Instead of a person that's afraid. Imagine, the traditional analogies of either sports or war to talk about leadership. Somebody that's afraid to make a change. Somebody that's afraid to make a decision, to advance, afraid to tell somebody to retreat, just afraid to position yourself in a risky place. It's never going to be a good leader. So again, most of the people connected in this call here in the room are leaders of an area, or if you don't have somebody that reports to you as a leader that way, you're leading, in decisions and what you do in what's important that you do it within JBS. Again, a key trait of a good leader is somebody that's able to make a call, and obviously understanding everything, pondering everything, and then making the call. That sense of urgency. A leader that doesn't have sense of urgency is by definition not a good leader. Now, let's be clear. A lot of times the decision is, we're not going to do this. That's a decision. Or the decision is, it's not the time to talk about this. That's a decision. lack of sense of urgency is, and because once you say that as a leader, everybody says, okay, yeah, sure, don't worry about it. This is not something we're going to do. Let's do something else. Forget about this for now. Or, hey, a few months from now, we should bring it up, but not now. It's decided that not now. It's a decision. Lack of sense of urgency looks kind of like, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And that get back to you never happens. Well, let's debate more. Okay, when are you want to debate more? Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow? No, I don't know. Let's debate more. We've all been through that. We've all seen that. We've all done that. We've all done it too. I mean, if we're all going to be honest, everybody has done that. I have done that. Everybody here probably has done it. If you haven't, congratulations. Great job. Because I don't believe you, to be honest with that. But so I think at the end of the day, good leaders, again, they need to listen, they need to debate, they need to ponder, and then they have a bias for action. Between being inactive and making a call, even if the call is we're not going to do anything, they're going to make a decision. They have the bias for decision. They want to make a decision. And I think that really leads to having sense of urgency. Again, a leader without sense of urgency, it's an undecisive leader. And that means a lost team, a team that's lost, because that's what the role of the leader is. The other thing too, a leader without sense of urgency is a leader that's not doing his job or her job. Because your job as a leader is to understand what are the options and make a call. And tell the team where to move forward. That's what a leader is. You're leading, right? If you don't have sense of urgency, you're basically, neglecting a key, actually the main thing that you have to do. So it's something that is really serious in my opinion. Again, one thing is, hey, we're going to debate this. And you actually debate something and you actually spend time debating it, and it may be slower than people want. I'm not saying that we should make a 1,000 rash decisions, like just jumping to decisions. I'm not saying that at all. Hey, we're going to debate this more. When? Tomorrow, and I'm inviting these people, and I want to really get everything. That's not being undecisive. That's really trying to understand everything, and that's really good. You know what I'm talking about. It's just procrastinating is what I'm talking about. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that we should all just make decisions without thinking about it. The other thing that I worry a little bit about, and we talk about humility, and again, how sense of urgency is, it's either a trait of great health when it comes to culture across the board, or great disease when across the board. A lot of times, lack of sense of urgency is connected with vanity, with lack of humility, lack of, what, I'm not going to make this decision. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, because I'm afraid of the risk, and I'm afraid of how I'm going to look like, how I'm going to look if this goes wrong. And I don't think everybody thinks that and lays that out, because most people don't think that way. Most people don't think that way. But it's a little bit of a subconscious thing. You know what? This might, if it goes wrong, I'm going to look really bad. So, you know what? I'm not going to. Well, let's see. Again, people don't think that laid out like that, but it's sometimes in the back of people's mind. Well, that's lack of humility. That's lack of, it's you trying to think about yourself then versus the good of the collective, right, of everybody. And actually, so again, it's a sign. It could be a sign of that, and it's very dangerous. The other one too, and again, I hope that we see very little of that within JBS, but I'm not going to say that I haven't seen some of that, is, you know what? I'm the boss with this decision here. I own this decision. And you're asking me for that. I'm not sure. I'm going to be a little bit possessive here. I'm going to be a little bit possessive of this. I don't know. Let me think. Basically, in other words, saying, look, I have the power to make this decision or make this decision, and I'll delay it because I can. Sometimes it happens. Again, I hope it doesn't happen much, but it could be a sign of that, and it's a very serious thing. The other thing that it could be very much a sign of is on the sincerity part. Conflict avoidance, right? And I'm not saying conflict doesn't mean an argument and a fight, but it's, hey, I don't agree with you. Let's debate this and let's hash it out and decide what we're going to do here. Well, I don't want to get into that uncomfortable discussion. So let's take this decision later. Again, these are all just obviously I don't we got to be careful not to be all negative about this, but it's how it sometimes looks like. I'll give some practical examples of what I think it looks like, and I'm not going to surprise anybody to that my first example is going to be emails. The person that invented emails was certainly somebody that didn't have sense of urgency. Well, hold on a second. It's certainly faster than sending a letter across. Certainly faster than that. But I think maybe the letter across the ocean was more effective because then you probably wrote down what you really wanted to happen instead of just pushing the problem a little bit forward. I really think, guys, and it's something that I don't want to just nag about this all the time, but I think it's the worst model of communication available to humanity in today's age. Emails are part of my strong reference here is a cancer inside of a company. It's a problem because it's not saying it's not important. I'm not saying we're going to disable Outlook from every, obviously no, we're not going to function if we do that, and we need it. It's a necessary evil, but it's evil. It's something really bad. It's a necessary evil, but it's evil. That's the definition of necessary evil. Something that's not good and it's terrible. It's disorganized, and most of the times is, it's not my problem anymore. It's your problem now. And then it goes to the back of somebody's like the last one of the person's email, and then when they get to that, they say, "Oh, no, that's my problem again. I don't know how to resolve that." Respond it again, and worse yet, respond to all. And then 1,000 people get 1,000 emails, and then there is one important email in the middle of 30 pointless emails. They're all as much prioritized. They have the same amount of priority in the, oh no, you can put an exclamation mark. Again, we all know it's pointless. It's just pointless. It doesn't work. And I don't want to be just like talking about it. Like, I really think we need to do something about it as a company. We really need to do something about this. When I've led business units and I was part of long chains of emails back and forth about issues, I always just watched, saw what was going to happen, and at the end of the day, just sent an email and said, "When is somebody going to sit down and make a call?" That was always my answer at the end of the email. Not that I want to be but I wanted to see how far that was going to go. It was just an observation. I just want to see how far, like, people that I know to be decisive, people that I know to be leaders, people that I know to be capable, that know the answer, instead of getting together and making a call, going back and forth. I'll tell you what, it's something that we should all think about. We should all talk to our teams. We should all evaluate ourselves for sure, and our teams, absolutely, and change. Call. These things work. In the voice and oh, I'm going to send them a text. Don't send a text. Call. And this thing is going to get tougher, because in this day and age, people don't like to talk on the phone anymore. People hate to talk in person. Call, text. Better yet, email, because it's even farther. It's even less connection with somebody else. It's less chance of supernatural way to talk. To whom it may concern, or whatever. What's the anyway? You know what I mean, right? As per our ability, nobody talks like that. It's just pushing problems away. It's pushing problems away, and I always give this example is, a lot of times you're copied in these emails back and forth about a load that's that needs to be shipped or something like that. If the truck driver knows that the guy probably sat in his truck for 5 hours waiting for 3 or 4 or 5 guys within this building here to think about going to their Outlook and then sending email. If they knew that they spent 5 hours, 6 hours, full day sitting outside of a plant, with us paying them, but them wanting to actually go and drive, if they knew that was happening, they would come here and punch somebody. Because I have to stay the whole day because you guys are playing emails and playing back and forth and nobody's making a call. It's a very serious thing. It's again, it's something that I think that we should really think about. Um, you know, do your part. You get an email, you know that there is a decision that needs to be taken. You know that you're going to be part of the decision. Maybe you're not the only one that's going to decide. Call somebody, get up and go. I mean, that's why we don't have walls. In the old days, buildings, offices had walls, right? Everybody had a little room. We don't have walls. That creates a lot of negatives. It's noise. It's the fact. It's not as easy to concentrate. What's the positive? Well, we can talk to each other. If we don't talk to each other, we just have the negatives and we don't have the positives of having an open office. We end up having neither. Um, so again, do your part on this. You see an email that's going back and forth that needs a decision. Call somebody. Get up from your desk. Talk to them if they're in the same physical building and that kind of stuff, and make a call. I'll talk a lot about this later, and I don't want to be repetitive. Most decisions can be reversed. So make a call. I mean, obviously, make a call that's well thought of, well debated, but make a call. And be careful about this email thing. It's really, 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 really dangerous for a company. And be careful. Like I looked at you and I thought about exports. Exports, it's even more dangerous because a lot of times the person I'm sending an email is on the other side of the world, and the time that we can actually email each other is very limited. So a communication that sometimes on the phone can last 1 hour, if it's a long one, could take a week. If you're gonna every night send it, then it's just as effective as sending a letter. It's just effective as sending a letter. So the other one that I always remember, we did an acquisition in Brazil, and we had to put a plan in place to integrate the company we were buying. And we had like a really tight schedule. We needed to really do it fast, and we were going to basically lose all the company systems overnight, and so IT needed to be involved, and it was very, very. I mean, we needed to hurry. We needed to really hurry, because otherwise we would have to shut down the operations for a while, and it was really dangerous for us to lose. We were in danger of losing a lot of money. Well, somebody had the great idea. You know what? We're going to have a PMO. We're gonna have somebody be the PMO, and nothing against the job PMO. But they put one of those timelines diagrams that every square in that diagram was a day, and they put a little bit of a scale of what needed to be done. It took like 2 months, and we didn't have 2 months. And then we set everybody together, and when we set it together, we were able to do it, I think, in 2-3 weeks. Problem is, it's a little bit of the PMO mindset of every square is a day. Like it takes a day to get anything done. But it's here, it's in the diagram, it's really organized, and this is our plan. Maybe we don't need a plan. Just get it done. Just sit down, and how many 10 things we can do per day. Not one thing here and then next day we're going to do that. That's absolute definition of sense of urgency. If anybody has one of those diagrams, be careful. They're dangerous. This PMO mindset of, this is the plan, because we feel it's a little bit warm in our hearts that we have a plan, and it's just follow the plan, but it's not resolving anything fast. So it's a bad plan. Again, I don't want to be a session of basically me ranting about but it's kind of what it is anyway. The other thing that I think it's important here is, again, I spoke about this thing about let me think. Well, let me think about that. Oh, let's talk about it. Again, let's be honest. Are we gonna talk about it? When? Because otherwise it's basically waiting for things to resolve themselves. The other one that I really, really find interesting too, and it happens with timing and it happens with other details as well, is hey, we need to figure out how much it costs to do this, how long does it take to get this done. It's a really important project. And then, okay, sure, yeah. And then they call a few people, and the person calls a few people, says, hey, it's going to take 3 weeks. Why 3 weeks? No, let's do it next week. No, I spoke to that person. They said 3 weeks. Did you ask why it takes 3 weeks, or did you just say yes? And a lot of times I see that happen. Well, I asked the person. The person is the owner of that process, and they said 3 weeks. So it's 3 weeks. Well, ask why. Maybe it's something you can help. Maybe it's them not having sense of urgency. Maybe is things we need to have things, we need to question when we get a timeline that's a little bit long. And I mean long, like weeks is long. We need to question. That's my point. When we get a timeline, we need to question the timeline. Not because you don't need to fear to be annoying all the time, that people are like you're second guessing the person, but at the end of the day, a lot of times it's because you're not supplying something that maybe the person needs to be faster. Maybe the person is thinking about a bunch of details that they think is important, but it's really not important for what needs to happen. And you just say, no, don't worry about this. Just get me this done. And, oh, okay. If that is, then I can do it today. Like a lot of times that happens. Again, we got to be very, 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 zealous about this. Like we see things that, and we need to question. We need to. I'll give another example that I always remember, that when I was in Paraguay. Again, we had a very, very small operation. We had 2 packing houses. They were small. They did very simple product mix. But whenever we had like new sales, a new customer, something like that, okay, we were small and we got everything done in one day. Like a new SKU. How many hours it's going to take. It's not a question about how many days it's going to take. A new SKU for a customer that we need to kind of go fast. I mean, and especially when it's something that the head of sales, the head of everybody's together, say, hey, we need to get this done. It's not something that it's like up to debate, right? Because sometimes, yeah, we're going to have a new SKU, but we're not sure if it really pans out. That's a different discussion. No, everybody's on the same page. Let's get it done. It was less than a day. We got it done and we, started producing. A lot of times in bigger companies, I remember when I was in Brazil in other business units. Oh, it's going to take 2 weeks. It's going to take 3 weeks. Oh, we're going to have a committee about this next week. Everybody's, hey guys, let's go. I mean, we need to. Well, and again, these things are very dangerous for a company. Now, I know that if everything is a priority, nothing's a priority, and then we have a mess and everything. Absolutely. But when things are priorities, then we can have the process that, is very meticulous, no question about those things. But when there is a priority and everybody's on the same page, we cannot have any barriers. Like everybody stops and gets something done, right? It's something that really, I think, defines a good company from a bad company. Think about companies that are unsuccessful. Unsuccessful companies or companies that are slowly dying. What they have in common is, well, it's the bureaucracy thing that we talk about, right? Bureaucracy leads to lack of sense of urgency, right? So it's things are slow. Things are always a week from now. Well, there's a committee. Let's wait. And there's always a reason to put a date out there, but not today. And again, that's very dangerous for a company. No decision is the worst decision. That's for sure. A decision that says, no, we're not doing this. Or no, we're not going to discuss this right now. We're going to discuss this 2 weeks from now. That's a great decision. That might be the best decision. No decision. Well, I don't know. Let's think about it. It's the worst decision. And the other thing too that I think is very important, and again, it's a key characteristic of a leader, is tough decisions. A good leader, when they have a tough decision, they don't postpone it. They actually really want to solve it immediately. And even if it's a tough decision that involves, stress and effort, and a good leader looks at a tough decision and actually wants to drop everything and make that decision. An average leader, leader that's not as great, that's tough. Leave it for later. We'll deal with this later. I don't know. Well, I'll think about it. Like again, I'm being repetitive here, but just push it out. Let's think about this later. It's the opposite of a good leader. Again, I just I don't want to take too long, because at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple thing. It's a very important thing. I think at the end of the day, okay, great. This all sounds bad. So what do we do? What do we do about it? How do we deal with this? I think we need to be very realistic, sincere, and honest to ourselves about when we see those things happening, especially when we are doing it. Because we all, like I said, we all kind of sometimes do it. Because it's more comfortable. At the end of the day, it's a lot more comfortable to get tough decisions and push them out, and things that you're insecure about and push them out. And oh, I have a process. Hey, stop the process. Get something done. It's a lot more uncomfortable than actually just no, just follow the process. Just and that's how it goes. Sending an email is a lot more comfortable than calling somebody. Because somebody might not be available. Somebody might actually be upset that you're calling because they like an email. They actually like to work like that. A lot of that's going to happen. Well, doesn't matter. That's how you communicate. You know, you're going to call, and the person should answer. Um, I think we need to confront ourselves. Obviously, when we see other people doing it, and and see people actually behaving that way, I think obviously in a very polite manner, in a very, you know, res- respectful way, say, hey guys, I think we should, don't say, don't call out. Maybe don't say, oh, your lack of sense of urgency, because then you're gonna just be unproductive. But to point out that hey, maybe we need to be faster on this deal here. Let's go. Let's absolutely, it's very important. But more than that if everybody is just, including me, all of us are just good at looking when we do those things and start having positive ways of doing something else. Of basically, look, this is important. It entered my queue, but somebody told me it's really important. I'll just do it right now and get it done. Like, we start doing those things, we show it's possible, and it's just really gonna streamline the company. It's really gonna just get us, a lot faster and a lot actually more fun to work to. And this email thing, I know that I keep on talking about it. I would love for us to actually do something about it. I would love for us to do something about it, because I think we just talk about it and it seems like a little bit of a joke, but it's not a joke. It's a very serious thing. We need to do something about it. And I think today is a huge cultural flaw that we have within JBS. It's a huge cultural flaw, and we should look at it that way. When you get into your back to your desks, or right now if you're looking at your desk and you open Outlook and there is emails that you shouldn't be copied in, ask not to be in. Ask not to be in it. It's going to make your life easier. Or things that like have been going on, time it, the first email to the last email. See how long did it take? When is somebody going to sit down and get this resolved? Make that question. When you go back to your desk and look at that, again, I'm talking about emails because I think it's a great, image of what the sense of urgency is. Take a look, do that exercise. Next time you look at a problem, look at when the first email was sent. How many days ago? Because a lot of times it's going to be days ago. Sometimes when it's fast, it's a few hours ago. And if you have some of those, start making calls. Every desk has a phone, and we have a phone everywhere we go, and they all work with voice. So I think we really need to, again, it starts with us. I can always point fingers at people that don't have sense of urgency. It's always somebody else. But if everybody points a finger to somebody else, it gets to a point that it's us. It's us. It's not somebody else. It's every one of us. And if we start doing those things, it's kind of a contagious thing, positive wise. If it's the other way around, it starts. It could be slow, and it could be actually negative for us. So again, sense of urgency is not one of our values. It's not one of the things that we put as things we believe in. But again, when we don't see it happening within JBS, it means that most of the culture is undermined. When we see it, it means that the culture is really healthy. If we see it in our departments, in the businesses that we work in, you can be sure that most of the values are being well practiced and lived. It's not something on the wall. And again, it's something that also makes our job a lot more fun. It makes it a lot more fun. Getting up from your desk, talking to people. Sometimes we are in a building with thousands of people, and we don't talk to many people during the day. That's boring. If you're in a building with thousands of people, how nice it is that you spend, how many hours you spend here actually talking to people and actually getting things resolved. I know that some customers are going to want you to send an email. Fine, send an email if the customer wants. I mean, you're not going to tell the customer that, hey, we had this talk about sense of urgency, and so should you. Or you're not going to do that, right? Because otherwise, they're not going to be your customer anymore. But within JBS, the things we can control, our mailbox, like after this meeting, let's really put some action in place and actually change how we communicate within JBS and how we we get things done. So again, don't take this as me ranting about like a ranting session or for me to unload some things. That's not the point. But I just think it's, again, something that's a proxy of our culture. And if we do that, we're really healthy and we're in a good spot. So I'll open to maybe questions, comments, disagreements. If there's no disagreements, I mean everybody agrees, and that's what we're gonna do. So silence means agreement in this case here.
We'll take a look for questions online, but anybody else in the room have any questions?
Send me an email.
I would just say that the email, and you're right. I think it's sometimes. Thank you. Sometimes people are afraid that.
Name yourself. Say who you are. Say who you are.
Oh, Fabio. Yeah, by the accent, right?
People don't know who you are.
Yes, Fabio. No, just thinking about the email. I think other thing is sometimes we don't trust that in a conversation you're gonna agree with something, and then later on we're gonna say, "Who make that decision?" Well, if you have the email, you have the evidence. I think it's some people. It's lack of trust too sometimes, because you want to put in writing, because if it is an agreement with a customer, I think that's the thing, right? It is good practice, but I think sometimes we don't trust in the future that if that thing goes wrong, it's like, so I think it's also bad in that sense that we don't trust on the communication.
Yeah. And the other thing too about this, Fabio, a lot of times, if you have the long meeting and it has like, hey, some decisions, some follow-ups. Yeah, after the meeting, after you talk, send a summary of, guys, and obviously, guys, see if this reflects the conversation we had and it's all the point. I mean, that's very healthy. I think that's very healthy. And the other thing too, how many times have you read an email and it looks aggressive when you read it? And when you talk to the person, no, that's not what I meant. It's just, and then they're like, But when you get the email, maybe sometimes it's like you wake up in the morning, you're still having breakfast. You look at your email, you're like, I can't believe the guy said that. You're pumped up, and you're like, I can't believe that. And then you're driving, you're like, I'm gonna tell that guy this. And then you answer like, again, like those that polite, passive aggressive email cues, right? That happens all the time. And then the person receives and says, I can't believe the guy said that. And actually, the beginning of the thing was like, hey, I think you should do this. It's a very, if one person said to the other, will be, oh, yeah, sure. And then it's like, gets everybody, anyway.
We've got one from online, Wesley. We have someone asking, how do you motivate others on your team to model the same sense of urgency that you have?
That's what I'm trying to do right now. It's what I'm trying to do. This is one attempt. It's one of my attempts. The other thing that I do, and again, it's sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's more difficult. A lot of times too, when it's something that I think it's, we gotta get something done, and I try to talk to people, I try to call people, and people don't answer. Say, hey, obviously you have to have some discernment if you can do what I'm about to say or not, right? Because depending on your responsibility and your level of ownership of that process. But hey, look, I try to call people to debate and to understand, but nobody, maybe the person wasn't available. It's kind of urgent. Hey, I'll send you a message. I send usually WhatsApp or text, whatever, that says, hey, I tried to call you just so you know, I'm doing this. We couldn't talk in time, but I had to make a decision. There you go. I'm doing this. Let me know if you disagree. I tried to call you. You didn't answer. I'm not going to send you an email. I'm telling you what I'm deciding. I'm not asking for us to schedule. I'm telling you what I'm deciding. And if you disagree, well, you didn't answer the phone. So next time you answer the phone, but it's in a polite way, in a very constructive way. You're like, hey, look, I tried to. Maybe the person says, hey, I was in a meeting with a customer and I couldn't answer. I disagree with this. Okay, well, let's talk about it. Anyway, I think, and again, very healthy thing to do. Next time you have a meeting pardon me, the next time that you're in a meeting that a good portion of your team is part of it, how about you finish 10 minutes early that meeting and have a discussion about this? How are we doing with this? As a team, how good are we with this? How bad are we with this? If we're good, great. Let's keep it up and let's actually help other other areas to be the same. If we're not doing well, let's start with us. And then if the other areas are going to do it or not, that's a different discussion. But in our department, we're going to be better at this. In our business unit, we're going to be better at this. I think that's a good way of getting started. And again, I don't think we need to start fighting about this. It's just, how do we sit down and have a discussion about how we can improve together?
Another one that I think is a little bit worse than email and text that you didn't mention, that is getting worse and worse too, is Teams chats. At least in a text, it's like something really small and you can adjust it quickly. Or in an email.
I don't even know what that is. Explain to me what that is.
Yeah. So, oh boy, I opened a can of worms. Sorry, everybody. But
What is it?
yeah, in Teams now, which we're using quite a bit, you can chat individually or with a group of people.
Okay.
So it's like a group text, but oftentimes how it's used, unlike a short text or an email that's in your inbox, in Teams, it's typically bigger. And so you get this big Teams chat and you look at it and you think, oh boy, I don't have time to digest that now because it's so big. And there's a greater opportunity for it to just get dropped entirely. And then the sense of urgency isn't there. You have to remember to come back to it or address it. I think worse than the other two you mentioned.
There's 4 letters that you can always send. My suggestion, maybe you're going to get in trouble if you do this with some people, but I've answered long emails like this too. TLDR. Too long, didn't read. TLDR. Too long, didn't read. I mean, do it with prudence, but do it, be smart about how you do this. But if it's with somebody that you have a little bit more openness, send them an TLDR. Say, I'm not going to read this. Because that's, what's the worst thing that can happen is that we start copying that, throwing it at autopilot, and then say, can you help me respond this? And then the autopilot sends a long response to it, and then it's AI talking to AI. That's the other thing that we're running the risk of happening to. We got to be careful, right? Yeah. Guys, let's be very, very like intense about this. Really, it will make our life so much easier. Really will. If I actually had this. I get so many pointless emails. I think it's a lot less than most people get. And it happened today. In the middle of 50 emails that are pointless, I had one that was very important. And it was from somebody else. And because I don't read much, I'm really bad at reading my emails. I'm really good at responding with other stuff, I think. But with emails, I'm terrible. I missed the important message because it's a lot of. So it's even difficult to when you have that kind of stuff. So. What else, guys? Let's start with the emails. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Hold on. Go ahead. Because otherwise people won't listen to you.
We're going to do a training on this, but since this is like email therapy, one of the other issues, I read a lot of the emails. It is amazing in this day and age, and I don't know how else to say it. Once you hit send, it is out of your control.
Yeah. And
that happy note.
Irony in emails age really badly. They rot. They don't age well. Irony ages really badly. So don't write irony in emails. No matter how funny you think you're being or how smart or how witty. It's really bad. It ages really bad. Like years from now, somebody saying, why did you write this? Well, I don't know. It was a joke. Oh, it doesn't look like a joke. It's a terrible thing. Be careful. But it was about sense of urgency, not just emails. But since we got into emails. Guys, really, just for us to end this here. Again, I actually find it's really cool that we're able to take this, I'm saying this in a kind of complaining a little bit but it's funny because everybody's laughing because we all live it. It's something that we live and it's like a low grade annoyance that we have like every day. And we talk about it and it's like, oh, I'm not the only one that gets, upset about this. And it's kind of everybody kind of is familiar with this. Let's all do something about it. If we all kind of decide that we're going to be kind of more strict about this, you get somebody who's new in the company, tell them how we work, Hey, we don't like this. Okay. It's important. Somebody new in your team, either a peer or somebody that works for you, with you in your team, talk about it. Say, hey, by the way, just so you know, we don't like this. We like to work like this. Hey, this works. Call. And again, let's be super zealous about this because it really changes everything. Okay. And time is money as well. Sense of urgency is money. We're going to make more money doing this. And the other thing that I'll just say, I just remembered that I think it's pretty important. Usually smaller companies do this. And you have to remember that in the early 2000s, JBS was less than a $1 billion company. And our biggest competitor from 15 years from now, maybe we don't even know their names. And I can just assure you that if there is a small company that's going to be a main competitor of ours 10, 15 years from now, I can assure you that the way that they're going to do it is that they're going to have more sense of urgency than we do. If do that, if such a thing happens. And so we need to be very, very, for the sustainability of our company, keep that really in mind. 15 years ago, nobody knew who JBS was, and we were a small company with a lot of sense of urgency, very little emails. And here we are. Our main competitor, maybe we don't even know their name. We don't even know where they live, maybe. And the only thing I know is that they have a lot of sense of urgency. I don't know who they are, where they live. I know that they have it. So let's watch out because otherwise it's very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. Another hand for Wesley, everybody. Thank you so much. For those of you online and those of you in the room, if you have not had a chance, please go ahead and scan the attendance you see on your screen. Additionally, this recording will be up in your respective learning management systems. Additionally, we have Tom Mazzoni coming next month. Scheduling will come out soon. We'll know what date, but he's going to do a part 2 of JBS Way to Build Brands in Sierra, what he did last time. And he's very passionate about that topic. So we're very excited to have him back. Thank you again to Wesley, and thank you so much for taking the time today.